Hey, what's up? In today's video, I'm going to talk about why popular relationship advice isn't working for you. And I'm going to introduce you to a framework that I use to get guys better results fast. So buckle up. It was 12 years into my marriage when I discovered that my wife was cheating on me. And after all the dust settled and we talked, she made it clear that she wanted to try to work things out, and I was willing to give it a try. So what followed was 5 years of nothing to lose, experimenting with anything and everything we could find, trying to find a way to forgive her, trying to find a way to get back what we had and make it even better than it was. And I came out of that experience with a lot of answers. And this channel is dedicated to sharing with you everything that I learned, the good and the bad, the things that worked, the things that didn't work, but most importantly, a framework that you can use to get the life and the love that you actually want, instead of trying to twist yourself into wanting what the relationship gurus are offering you, which isn't always the same thing. All right, let's get started. A lot of people struggle with trying to make relationship advice work. I sure did. Today we're going to cover 3 reasons why relationship advice might not be working for you. Reason number 1, you are treating the symptoms and not the disease. I picked up on this reason because of a pattern that I noticed was going on, and maybe this is something that's going on with you and your spouse too. We would go to Amazon and we'd pick a program and start working on it. And we would notice that things would get better pretty quickly, but it wasn't long before things started to get worse again. And so we'd go back and we'd find a new program and we'd start working on that. And this pattern repeated itself, where things would get better for a little while and then they get worse, and then they get better and then they get worse. And I'm a kind of a slow learner, so it took me a while before I realized what was going on. And what I realized was that all these programs are pretty much the same. And they address a lot of the same stuff. They address conflict, they address communication. And each of those things was a symptom of what was going wrong, of a relationship that's not working. A relationship that's not working has a bunch of symptoms, and these programs were addressing those symptoms. And just like taking Tylenol for a headache, it gets better, but without addressing the root cause, without identifying where these symptoms are actually coming from, you're not going to get to the bottom and actually solve it for good. So I started looking for that root cause, that core issue, and I found it in an unlikely place. And that search led me to the second reason relationship advice wasn't working for me. Reason number 2, relationship advice books are aiming at the wrong target. There were a bunch of clues that led me to this conclusion, but the biggest ones, believe it or not, came from trashy romance novels. So it turns out that when you read trashy romance novels, not just for enjoyment, but to really understand how they work and what makes them work, you come away with a very different picture of what women want from romance, a very different target from the one relationship advice books are shooting at. To get an idea of what I'm talking about, take a look at that scene that I opened this video with. That scene between Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise from the movie Far and Away. In that scene, Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise are enemies, right? They think the worst of each other's intentions, probably rightfully so. See, there's conflict and misunderstanding. I don't see a lot of openness. I don't see a lot of sharing of emotions in a non-threatening way. There's not a lot of closed loop communication, not a lot of learning to speak each other's love language. She skewers him with a pitchfork. And yet, despite all of that, because that core element that I was talking about is there, this scene is the beginning of an epic romance. The kind of romance that every woman wants to be part of. See, we've become so convinced that relationships need to be harmonious and affectionate and nice. We're missing this obvious fact. That's not really the thing that makes romance work. People pay money to read these stories and to watch these movies because that's an experience that they want to have. That's the kind of romance that they wish that they had in their lives. And that led me to dig even deeper to see what was really going on. What was the thing that made these situations romantic? If it wasn't harmony and affection and being nice to each other, what was it? Reason number 3 that relationship advice isn't working for you: relationship advice is using a lame strategy. I mean, in a way, this just makes sense. If you're shooting at the wrong target, the strategy that you designed to get there is going to be worse than useless, right? Because it's taking you someplace you don't want to go. So what's the answer? So, like I said, I buried myself in trashy romance for a while. And I read books about how to write trashy romance and YouTube videos about what makes those things work. So after a lot of time and testing and working and reworking these things, a framework started to emerge for what was missing, for what this thing was that was causing all the grief that was missing from our romances. The thing that made it okay for Nicole Kidman to stab Tom Cruise with a pitchfork and it still be believable for the audience that they would fall for each other over and over and over again throughout the rest of the movie. So let me show you the basics of how that works. So there's basically 4 elements that make this all work. So element number 1, the characters are self-motivated. They need to be self-motivated. What I mean by that is that they're not trying to be nice or do something for the other person. This is critical. See, in fact, they're almost always at odds with each other in these scenes, in these movies. Element number 2, the characters act in a way that is unexpected and surprising to the other character. They act in a way that makes them stand out from other men or other women that they have known. Element number 3, the characters display admirable characteristics: strength, courage, willingness to be different, to be unpopular with the community, to not try to be what other people want them to be. Element number 4, the characters are honest. They're honest with each other and they're also honest with themselves on a much deeper level than we usually see, than we're usually used to thinking about. See, there's an element of storytelling called subtext, which is basically the conversation that's happening underneath the surface, underneath the conversation that we all are watching and hearing. There's another conversation going on underneath. For example, if a girl was really attracted to a boy, she might deny it strongly, right? But she would do it in such a way that the audience immediately would understand that she's actually very attracted to him. And that's subtext. And we're all aware of it on a nonverbal level to a greater or lesser extent. But there's subtext that is romantically attractive and there's subtext that's not romantically attractive. And this is one of the key elements to creating this romantic foundational core element that makes situations like the scene from Far and Away believable, makes them work, makes them be romantic. Okay, that's all I have for today. Anybody who wants to learn more about this, first of all, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be posting videos every week about this stuff. Also, there's a link in the description box that'll take you to the website where I have a free webinar that goes into much greater detail and depth about a lot of this stuff. And there will be an opportunity for those of you who want me to install this in your life for you, to put this into play and customize it to your particular situation. So that's all I got for you, and I'll talk to you next time.